My name's Andy Gibson and I'm an audio director, video editor and musician, mainly in computer games for the last 13 years. Prior to that, I worked in broadcast and animation. Recent games that I've worked on are Forza Street, Hot Wheels ID, For Honor and the Grand Tour. Many of these are driving games and obviously come up with the same problems and same challenges. Recording cars, getting assets, often restricted with time constraints, certainly with budgets. It can be very expensive to find and get the right cars, the resources and all the microphones and the equipment that it takes to record them well. So recently we've been using Igniter, partly in-house and on some personal projects as well, and it's a great piece of software and it's very good for working quickly, for generating sounds very quickly, for real world cars, but also for totally fictitious cars, sci-fi and maybe simulated electric cars, which is really interesting, especially with the on and off loads, the rev ranges, the gear changing, the way you can loop and add granular synthesis and synthesis all into the sound. So it makes it a very thick, rounded sound, quite believable, but also totally fantastical as well. So yeah, it's got a lot of uses that we're finding really inspiring, both with cutscenes and integrating into Fmod or Wise or however we're using it, either cutting it into loops or generating ramps into rev. So yeah, it's a great piece of software and I'm going to show you through it and hope you enjoy it. Cheers, thanks. So this is how we usually record cars when we're not using Igniter. So we're miking up my friend's car here with between 6 and 10 microphones, getting the intake and the engine, the turbos, the exhausts, and it's quite time consuming because once you've obviously checking all your kit that it doesn't overheat, it often catches fire on the exhaust. I mean it's cool, but it's very loud, it's time consuming, it can be expensive if you're doing bespoke cars. Getting hold of the cars and everything else can be troublesome. It's cool, but what Igniter does, it saves you an awful lot of time, money, and either in resources or getting cars, going out and miking them, and all the kit, where essentially it's all there ready to go. Hi, okay, I'm going to show you how to set up Igniter in Pro Tools. First of all, we need to create a new track, and I'm going to create a stereo instrument track, and I'll also create 5 stereo audio tracks as well. So first of all, in the instrument track, we'll go to multi-channel plugins, instruments, and select Igniter, and it comes straight in and it's running already. So we'll turn that off a sec. One of the many good things of Igniter is that it's scalable and resizable, which is great for fitting lots of things on your screen at once, like now. And so, okay, so we've got a quick overview. Igniter has got 4 different ways of generating sounds for vehicles, which is each of these tabs: granular, synth, one shot, and loop. We'll go into these in more detail later on. But what I want to do now, just to get it running, obviously it's running and we can hear it and everything. But if you notice here, we also have like a mini mixer and a granular synth, one shot, and loops. And as you can see, they're here. But what we can do is take these and the output of these and put them here. So then we can record them all separately and we can do with what we want later. So it's just to show you how to do that, really. So on the mixer in Pro Tools, bring this in. The in and outs, I'm going to change them to Igniter insert to granular output, and this one to the synth output, this one repeating the process to one shot output, this one to loop output, and this one to the effects output. What I'm going to do, just because kind of like this, is granular, we're going to call that granular, and then we'll go to the next one, synth, the next one, one shot, The next one, loops. And the next one, FX. Cool. Now, if I arm them to record, I'm hoping we should. Hold on, let's see. Oh no, so I'll do that and record. And I'm hoping if we oh yeah, there we go. So let's see if there's something coming through there. So as you can hear, yeah, and see, we've got we can replay it there. So that's great. I mean, that's working as we'd expect now. And so moving on to the next tutorial, I'll go through each of one of these tabs and what they do. Okay, so we're going to go through the granular sound module and see what it's got to offer. So when you get Igniter, it comes with lots of factory presets, which are really cool, and got real world, sci-fi and sirens. We're going to take a look at the real world to start off with. And we've got cars and trucks. In the car library, we've got lots of cars, which include Aston Martins, Audis, Ferraris, Fords, Honda, etc. There's also Igniter Full Tank, which is the industry standard version, but comes with 75 gigabytes of additional library content, including skids, ramps, revs, etc. So essentially what we're going to do, we're going to start with one of these presets and just show you through what it's got to offer. Each of these cars has two sound sources, which is the engine and the exhaust. And if we just get it going. So you can hear them. And then we've got manual auto for just the ease of use. Right now I'm going to switch it to auto just so we can so you can see you get quite good results straight away. That's quite easy to control. And obviously with these controls underneath here, you've got shuffle depth, RPM smoothing, the limiter of the threshold, the crossfade and the idle fade. These can all be edited, applied to the modulator up here, and we're going to go into that later on. This is another way of how you can modulate and fluctuate the sounds. And so yeah, basically what comes with the granular is you've got a library of lots and lots and lots of sounds here, which you can either go to the presets, or if we go back to the engines, we can drag and drop into here. So yes, exhausts. We can drag over there. Exhaust there. So yes, you can see. Try that. Yeah. Brilliant. So yeah, you can see you're getting quite a selection of different sounds already. Ooh, let's try the Harley Davidson. Oh, brilliant. Okay. So this is great. Straight out of the box, we're getting quite convincing editable sound, engine sounds that we could use in our DAW along visuals, or obviously we can prepare these to put them into Fmod or Wise so we can use them in game. Under this tab, we've got loops, and this is a way of creating engine sounds with loops. You can layer them up. I think you get up to 4. Yep. And basically, if we start the engine, we've got a helicopter this time. Increase the revs and so straight away you can see we can control this in real time. So
so doing this for post-production or for films or animations, it makes it a lot quicker than trying to dig through your libraries and find the exact right sound for that moment in time. You can actually just bring up Igniter and start playing with this along with the footage. So it saves an awful lot of time, especially obviously for engines and helicopters, trucks. What else we've got in here? Loads of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, you could obviously pan it within the app or pan it in your mix later on. So that's loops. There's lots of them here. You can click on here and just same as before. You can literally just drag and drop to swap them out. It's as easy as that. You've got preview. Sorry, that's your mute and solo, but you've got your preview here. So in this tab, I've got the one shot, and this is kind of like a mini sequencer, 4-track sequencer, where you can drop samples and adjust them on the timeline. I'll show you. So here we go. Let's just check these in here, just general. And with these, you can select what part of the sample you want to play. So I think, and we could maybe play a bit longer than that. Who knows? Let's see what. And with these, obviously, we can adjust the pitch, the speed, but with this, it's kind of strange, but we'll have that. And these, and just, and with this, yeah, it just plays out. So what I want to show you is on each one of these correlates to each of these. So basically, when you click, you get a little tiny playhead. So this is also touched the rev range. So every time it passes this point in the rev range, you'll hear it. So, and if we put the second one about here, and that's it. We'll put the third one about there. And the fourth one in, which is put at the end. It sounds a bit messy, but you get the idea. Not only can we do that, I mean, say if we wanted to put gear changes in, when the playhead plays this way, it will only play when it's going that way. What you can do is if you click on this a second time, the playhead goes that way. So if we... it won't play that way. If we click it again, it will play both ways. This. I think if we click it again, we get a stop. So it will play part of it and then stop. Let me go for it. Move it there, it's probably a bit clearer. Okay. So yeah, this is a way of, I mean, this would be a good way of doing one shots like skids or gears or anything where you could get quite experimental with this. Again, it's more for adding textures on top of what's already there because you can, obviously it runs at the same time in the same timeline as the granular or the synthesis. But yeah, it's for adding sort of sweeteners and one shots over the top. And so under this tab, we have the synth option, which is a little bit more random than the others. It's probably best used for the sirens and some of the sci-fi because it sort of mimics an analog synthesizer really. So we can get quite strange things such as this. This just sounds like a siren. it's all editable here, but basically what it is, it's a 5-layer synth. It's not going much on at the moment, but if we start messing around with add the frequency to here. So you can add any of these to the modulator over here, which is, you can affect the area that it's. So as you can see, it's quite experimental. It's quite good fun. It takes a little while to get something out of it, but you can certainly make a lot of sirens and a lot of more sort of sci-fi and strange sirens and stuff. I guess we've used a little bit of this when we've been doing electric cars, but I'll show you more of that later. Okay, so now I've got my igniter set up on my timeline with an Audi R8 loaded in, and what I'd like to do is I'm going to prepare some audio for game integration, but with Fmod. So I'm basically going to hold the revs at each one of these ranges, 1000, 2000, 3000, so on and so forth, until I've got pretty much the whole rev range in, and I'm going to work through it with the revs, but try and hold it at set revs for maybe 10-15 seconds, so I've got a long enough loop to then put into Fmod, and we can crossfade between these. So I'll show you what I mean. So essentially we'll get the engine going. I'm going to leave that there for a few seconds so I can cut a loop out of it, and so on and so forth. When it gets to 20, I'll move it on up. So as you can hear now, I've got a really good recording of each of the different rev ranges, so I can chop these into loops and then put them into Fmod and crossfade, and so the game data can then power the parameters that will make this go up and down through the gears and through the rev ranges. Great, but this saves loads of time, loads of effort if you're on a budget, or you've already got access to all these engines as presets. You can use them, obviously, just controlling them with Igniter if you're using sound to picture. In the game world, either with Wise or Rev, if you were using loops, you could do that. So this is basically saving an awful lot of time, money, and effort